when I'm getting to the bag, ayy. Got the foot on the gas, pedal to the metal when the lane moving fast, ayy, ayy. Let them all cross. If they hate, then let them hate and make a bigger boss, ayy.
What is up, ladies and gentlemen? There we go. We are back. We are live. It is the Freight Coach Podcast, the top podcast in transportation, coming to you guys every single weekday, 8:30 a.m. Pacific, 10:30 Central, to break down some industry headlines. But most importantly, you guys provide some actual insight into what you can do with all of this information. If this is your first time tuning in, welcome. This is the real side of freight, ladies and gentlemen. And I do say that before every single show. And what I mean by that is I only speak with transportation professionals, because at the end of the day, I want to talk to the right individuals who have done what you're looking to do, or who are currently doing what you're trying to achieve. So you can take that information, apply it, utilize it, and see a meaningful difference in your business and your life. Happy Thursday, everybody. Good morning, Corey Buchan over on YouTube. We go live on YouTube, you guys. If you guys want to check us out over there, I heard the stream quality is exponentially better on that platform than anywhere else you're going to watch this show. But today, we're going to be doing a solo show. Unfortunately, my guest is ill. We got him rescheduled for next month, though. And yeah, he's done reefer freight for a very, very long time. And I was going to have him do the reefer lane analysis with me today on the show, but you're going to get me to do it. And then I'm going to go in and really break down this topic about bridging the gap, about improving broker and carrier relationships in a tight market, because I don't know if enough people are truly prepared for what could happen in this next iteration of a freight cycle. But with that being said, you guys, it is, we normally do this on Wednesdays, but with it, I try and match up this lane breakdown with my guests and what their specialization is, because I don't move a ton of reefer freight. I haven't in a while. And I always love people coming on here and breaking down their expertise for you guys to help you out. And so today's lane, I chose this lane in particular. And again, if you want your lane featured, I need you to email my team, podcast@thefreightcoach.com. I just need pickup city, delivery city, and trailer type. That's all I need on this. And again, the whole point of what we're doing here in our partnership with DAT, you guys, is to just help you read the freight market, because regardless of what the prices are, we need to perform, right? And I don't know if anybody is going to be able to accurately predict what is going to actually happen this year. I have a lot of theories on what's going to happen, but theories are pretty pointless and when you actually have to move the freight and get a truck today. So we're going to break that down. And this is kind of to piggyback off of our reefer lane from last week when we had Dean Croak on the show, you guys. And this actually, again, this is going to show you the market entirely. All right. So this is the Southeast. This lane is from Atlanta, Georgia to Des Moines, Iowa for a reefer trailer. And when Dean was on last Friday, you guys, there was a very noticeable spike right around May and June. And why is that? That is the produce effect that happens. Okay. So if you're moving outbound freight, refrigerated and dry van during produce season in the Southeast region, you will see an exponential increase in pricing that goes along with that. And then it kind of migrates up into the Carolinas after that. So how do you get prepared for this? Now, a couple of key data points I want you guys to pay attention to. Obviously, this January, if we're looking at historical data, I very much weigh historical data into all of my pricing decisions, my current market, as well as what could possibly happen, because I pay attention to trend lines, you guys. I don't pay attention to incremental bumps and spikes that happen occasionally, and then especially ones that I could tie into a weather event. I want to see, where is the pattern? How does this lane perform? And I would probably guarantee, I'm not going to go as far as absolutely, but I would probably guarantee that if you pulled Atlanta, Georgia to Des Moines, Iowa for the last 5 to 6 years, it probably has a very similar pattern on how the market spikes, dips, levels out, and all of that stuff. But right now, if we're looking at a January to January comparison out there, which I think is very, very important, we are sitting about $120 more on this lane this January as opposed to last January. And if you've been paying attention to any of the headlines out there, you know that there's a lot of, we'll call it hammers being dropped. And I think that that is playing into this market and why you're starting to see a price increase that is going on out there. But I want you guys to this lane is, overall, I think, again, it's going to perform the exact same this year. I would probably say in January of next year, we could pull this exact same lane up, or February, sorry, whatever month it is right now. And it would probably have a very similar pattern that is going on out there. Okay. And that's what I want people to pay attention to, because this lane, it's 900 miles. This is a great weekend lane out there. So as you're going out and pricing this with your customer, again, we're going, there's two different things. Obviously, if you're a contracted rate, you have an RFP with your shipper, you got to lock in and you got to eat that depending on the day of the week that it ships out. You got to eat that cost. You got to move the freight, because if you don't, I will. And I know a lot of other providers that will service the account no matter what. But if this is one of those truck in hand style situations, this lane is like the definition of a power lane. I think that as we go into this next market, this will be probably one of the last lanes to change and from a pricing perspective at all. So like if I'm going in there and I'm looking at this, I would keep my rates the same throughout the year. I truly would. If we're looking at this right now, like if you look at the 1 year mark average, it's pretty much performing. It's a couple $100 higher. So if you're going in there and you're pricing it, obviously quote accordingly. I'm not going to tell you guys what to price, because I don't want to underbid something. If you got a customer who, pays a premium on some of their freight, it's very subjective on how to go out there and price it. But if we're looking at this lane, in my opinion, is going to perform the same in 2026 as it did in 2025, because this is the definition of a power lane. And if you're going out there and you're bidding on freight this year, you guys, I want you to be very, very attentive towards the fact that the lanes that are going to spike first are going to be the fringe markets. All right. Those are the ones that are like 100 to 200 miles outside of a major metropolitan area. Those lanes tend to spike first. And then it goes into the secondary cities that are out there, the ones that are about a 50-mile radius from a major metropolitan area. And then finally, the last ones to change, you guys, are going to be major city to major city, because the mega carriers, the mega brokers, they own the pricing on those lanes, and they're not declining those tenders. All right. They are going to honor that stuff. They are going to move it. And I think that if you're going out there and you're the one who sent in this lane, I would get your rates as locked in as possible for as long as possible, because I do not think this lane is going to shift at all this year. Now, could I be wrong? Yeah, there could be some mass event that, weather event that happens out there. And when I'm looking at a lot of this stuff, you guys, again, I think people don't pay enough attention to the fact that how a severe storm in one part of the country actually throws off all of pricing for a couple of weeks after the fact, right? So like I know up into the Carolinas, Tennessee, like within the last 4 weeks, there was some unseasonable snowfall that happened out there. That's a main area in the country. So again, this is why I'm never too quick to jump to increase prices or say one thing or another, because I know the ripple effect that this stuff can happen. Why do I say that with confidence? I have a lot of freight that we move on the West Coast. Guess what? When those snowstorms were happening on the Southeast there, that affected our capacity out West, because our drivers weren't getting out West in time. All right. So it has a ripple effect. That's why I am slow to change my course and my opinion on a lot of this stuff. But to me, this lane is the epitome of stability. And regardless of what you're bidding on that, I don't see any spikes on this happening. Okay. So I would take that lane with confidence 100 times out of 100. And it's not going to be as volatile as you think out there. Now, could I be wrong? Yeah, but like I don't see it happening on a power lane like this. So that's my reefer freight breakdown on this week in freight, powered by DAT. You guys, if you want your lane broke down live on the show, email my team, podcast@thefreightcoach.com, and we'll feature it, right? Like I don't need customer information. I don't need anything. I'm just trying to show you guys trend lines. All right. I'm trying to show you guys what I actually assess as I bid freight, because I actually move freight. Okay. I actually cold call shippers every single day. And my strategy on how I win business is vastly different than what you see out there on the social media land. Okay. Because you can't go in there and tell your customer one thing or another. We need to be very cognizant on what goes on and how we can bring stability to our customers. Because if you don't trust me, someone else will. And we're going to talk about that. It's a great segue into today's topic that, I wanted to break down with my guy, Sonny, but this is never a topic that can fall to the wayside. Oh, excuse me. Needed to get some caffeine there. But today we're talking about bridging the gap, carrier broker synergy in a tight market. And I'm seeing a lot of this out there right now. I see a lot of people who are having a very hard time comprehending the fact that carriers charge more money. And as somebody who's been doing this for quite some time, I don't know if enough brokers actually understand what will happen in this next market shift. And I think, because I think like we're going into a unique time in how this market shift is going to happen. I'm going to break down some of this stuff on tomorrow's show because I was saving that for my solo show tomorrow, where we break down industry headlines. But I'm going to kind of tie that in. I've never seen this much from any administration that has ran this country in the entirety that I've been in this industry than the current administration, and the absolute crackdown they are administering to this industry on removing any and all fraudulent activity. I think personally, if you are a clean operation from a trucking perspective, you own trucks, if you're an owner operator, small fleet, mega fleet, doesn't matter. You run a clean operation. I think by the time this current administration continues to do what they do, I personally think there is going to be a golden age of trucking that is going to make COVID look like child's play. From the premiums that some of these guys are going to be able to charge out there, because depending on how deep this goes, right? I think like we're still about a year away from seeing how deep this goes and how many operators that are on the road that could be operating fraudulently. I'm not going to come out here and say one way or another. This is just where, if I'm looking at it from a strategy perspective, you guys, I think what is going to happen is it's going to surprise a lot of people on how many people have not been operating up to the standards that they should have. And it's going to force a course correction that's out there. I think that what it's going to do is there's going to be some possibilities that there could be a drop in capacity. I don't want to say it's going to happen overnight, but I think that there's going to be another mad rush for people going out there and getting their own authorities and trying to start their own trucking companies. So I think that there could be, depending on how far this goes, there could be a massive, massive opportunity. But rest assured, all of the clean trucking operators that I've had on this show, I've told them all, I text them this. I'm like, they're about to get paid at a level that I don't think anybody can even comprehend. Because if this is as bad as some of the stuff that they're uncovering in these webs of CDL schools and everything else, there could be a short-term shock in the system that really makes capacity go at a premium. And this is where providers show up to shine. I think that what surprises me the most from a broker's perspective is how I don't know if enough brokers understand who truly holds the leverage out there. As a broker myself, I'm guilty of everything that drivers and trucking companies hate about brokers. Early on in my career, I've admitted that on this show a lot. And I'll admit it again. I'm guilty of those behaviors early on. But I identified really quickly on how I cannot run a business without trucking companies. And, so it's like, if we're talking about bridging the gap out there, I want you to ask yourself this question. If you're a broker right now, have you set your carrier partner up for failure? I want you to think about that. All right. Have you set them up for failure? And you might be asking, how do I know if I've set them up for failure? I'm going to start with one of the most common complaints I hear out there. Did you fail on a load one day and had to roll it to the next? And it was an appointment time on the day it was supposed to pick up, but then it was a work-in, and then you lied to the carrier and told them it was first come, first serve? Let's start there. How about this? How about a load weighs, 42,000 pounds, or, we'll go 44,000 pounds, which is at the heavy end for drive-ins and stuff like that out there. A lot of guys, they'll haul it, but they don't like to haul it. Burns more fuel, everything else. I get it. Have you lied to them and told them it was like 40,000 pounds, and then they show up, got loaded, and they're already loaded, and they've been sitting empty for a couple of days, and you just put them in a bad spot? How about that? Have you done that before? What about this? What about detention or accessorials? And the driver shows up, waits, then you're lying, you tell them like, oh, we'll get you detention. We'll get you detention. Just hang out, please. And then you go and request detention from your customer. And then you tell the carrier that they didn't get detention approved, and then you pocketed that money. Have you done that? So I look at it is I think people are baffled at the fact of like, why don't carriers trust brokers? And, I think like the bar to be a solid performer out there is like extremely low. And it starts with just telling the truth, right? Like I operate as best as I possibly can. Do we fail at times? Yes, we're humans. All right. We're going to drop the ball. Things are going to happen, but I want to set my carriers up for success no matter what. I have often talked about it on this show that like 85% of our freight is pre-booked with the same trucking companies. Okay. I reach out to the same drivers time and time again because I want to keep them fed. I want to keep them busy. I'm reaching out to guys. We got freight booked for next week already, you guys, and we're reaching out to our regulars. Hey, I got this load on this day. I got this load on this day. And my owner ops and our regulars are like, hey, I'm going to try and get a load back into that area. Here's what I'd need. Boom. We're going to get all of that done and we're going to pre-book that stuff. I don't want to go out to the load board if I don't have to. Because I've already done the legwork, right? Like I'm trying to work smarter out here and I don't want that risk of the unknown of, working with a carrier that you've never had a relationship with before. So it's like for me, as I'm going out there, I want to keep my guys fed. I want to keep them busy. I want to keep them moving. And I want to keep them coming back to me for when this market changes, because if the rates increase, all right, that's my job to administer that news to my customer to get higher rates. Okay. If the market flips and it goes from $1,000 to $2,000 and it stays at $2,000, it's my job. It's my relationship with the customer to go in there and get more money. All right. I need a truck though in every equation, every possible scenario as a broker. I need a truck to show up. So again, I want to set them up for success. I'm going to do everything in my power because, I look at it like this. I'm bad at like, I'm going to try and explain it the best way I can. You got me as a broker. All right. My customer is the shipper in this instance. All right. My carrier that I book on this is a direct reflection of my capabilities and abilities to my customer, who is the shipper. Now, more often than not, we're delivering to the receiver, which is what? Our customer's customer. Okay. Again, you don't think that every manufacturer out there in every industry, everybody who produces goods or services doesn't have competition? You think your customer is the only one who does produce in the United States or the only one who sells dairy products in the United States? There is competition everywhere. And it's on you to set your driver up for success. Because again, I want to make sure all of my shippers that work with us have one thing. They can look at every interaction with my company, have a direct line item on their P&L that shows massive profitability because their customers continue to order from them from the service that I provide to transport that product from point A to point B. I want everybody to be on the exact same page. I want everybody to have all the exact same information that I have. We're going to call ahead to every single facility. We're going to verify everything. If it needs to go to a secondary facility, we're going to find that out before the truck even loads. That's the level of service that you need to deliver out there. And again, it's a very brief thing to say, but I think laziness is going to be the biggest detriment for a lot of people. A lot of people are going to have a very hard time accepting the fact that this next freight market is not going to be fun for brokers. All right. I called this like literally last year. And the beauty of my show and the much fucking content that I put out there, you can go research all of this stuff. I called this last year that this next market shift, unfortunately, is going to cause a lot of pain for freight brokers, way more than carriers, way more than manufacturers. This is going to be a market that I think a lot of people are going to struggle in. I don't want anybody to go out of business, but I feel like if you've never operated in that environment, you're going to have a very challenging time out there, because I think that every carrier has a list of brokers that they will never work with under any circumstances, just like their shippers. that have a list of brokers they will never work with. And I know that there are brokers out there who have a list of carriers and shippers that they will never work with. But nonetheless, where we are headed in 2026, potentially, I think it might be a little bit more of a 2027 thing than a 2026 thing. I think there's a lot left to be seen. But I think that from our perspective as a broker, you need to start looking at yourself as a direct representation of your customer. All right. And I know a lot of individuals out there don't like to think of carriers as their customers. I try and do that every single time. We try and do right by our carriers every single time. We will prepay them detention. And then it's our job to get that money from our customer. And if our customer declines it for whatever reason, we're going to eat that cost. All right. Because again, I have freight that we move that, you know what, can be heavy. It's 48,000 pounds, needs 8-foot tarps, 6-foot tarps, picks up, like it's not the most appealing stuff that's out there, right? It's not like it's 25,000 pounds, strap and go, and you're off to the races, right? Like there's some things that happen out there in the real world in the open deck space. And when I have a carrier who's cool with that, they can scale 48,000 pounds. They can use 8-foot tarps, they're 6-foot tarps. And, like I want to make sure that they're going to be available to pick up again for me, because my customer expects me to be able to find that capacity. So it's like, you know what, if I got to eat $100, I'm going to eat $100. I look at the rolling 12-month cycle. I look at the growth trajectory. I look at the future opportunities. And again, I have yet to meet a broker who's presented a business plan to me as a broker, as a freight broker, that involves making money without actually using trucks. Still waiting for that, right? So again, I don't understand why we're making it harder on ourselves. I truly don't. Because again, like ultimately downstream, have you ever had a carrier ask for detention? You got it approved from your customer, and then you told your carrier that there was no detention on the load, and then you were like 25, so you thought you were really cool, and then that shipper or that carrier happened to call your customer and say, "Hey, we need detention." And then they're like, well, yeah, we got you detention on a load. And then your customer calls you and said, hey, what happened with that one? Why did they call me and say there was no detention? I thought we approved detention. Have fun with that conversation. All right. Because that happened to me once. It's not fun. Right. So it's like for me, accessorial stuff like that, it's a complete pass through. All right. If our customer approves $100 in detention, boom, $100 goes to the driver or the carrier, however they want it handled. That's on them. But like, I'm not going to try and skim $20 off the top or 50, but like, no, that's not going to happen. Not with my organization. And it never will. So I look at that is like, that's a separator though. Okay. That's a way that you can separate yourself, because brokers have reputations for a reason, good or bad. All right. And I want us all to actually navigate through this market shift and be successful. All right. Because there is, when I say there's going to be a golden age of opportunity for asset providers in this next market shift, which I truly think that there's going to be, I also think there is going to be a golden age for brokers to capture market share that they never thought was possible, because we are coming off of a historic excess capacity market. All right. You haven't really been struggling to cover freight. And if you've been struggling to cover freight out there, I don't know if I'm not going to say anything further on that, but, this is going to open up the door for you with a lot of these prospects that you've been going after. That I think the golden age for carriers is going to be just as much for the right brokers out there who do the right thing, who pay their carriers fair, who get them pre-booked on freight and do all of that, because shippers are going to be able to tell, not everybody, right? Like I want to be abundantly clear. Some people don't give a shit, but at the end of the day, customers are going to recognize who shows up when things are tough. Who's there, still covering freight, still getting trucks showing up, all of that stuff communicated at a high level, because like, it doesn't matter if I'm making a ton of money on a load or if I'm losing money on a load, my customer will never receive a different level of service and communication from us. They will never know. That is insulated with me. I will cry myself to sleep about losing money on a load, but I will never let somebody external from my organization feel that. That's not on them. It's my fault. All right. Because at the end of the day, my customer hired me, plain and simple. And that's the way that we're going to approach this. So it's like, again, there is a potential for a massive opportunity that's coming on out there. If you're doing the right thing, all right, you're being fair, you're communicating at a high level, you're setting your carriers up for success. You're going to flourish when this hits. All right. when this happens. I think anybody who's sitting here and saying a definitive date and time is lying to your face and trying to sell you something. All right. Nobody can actually tell when this is going to change. Is it evident that there are changes that are happening? Yes, I think it is. And I think a lot of people are open to the fact. Nobody can sit here and tell you with a definitive date, because a lot of people who are trying to be very bold with their predictions have been wrong for the last 3 years. Why are they right now? Okay. But then furthermore, downstream, who cares what anybody else says? My only concern are my four walls. All right. I have a P&L. I have a business to grow. I have employees to pay. I have employees that I want to hire. My big audacious goal is to build the largest transportation company in North American history. And that is what I am going to do. So I don't care what goes on in the market. I got to get better. I got to understand where things are. I got to keep trucks fed. I got to keep them moving. I got to set them up for success. I got to make my customer look great to their customer, because otherwise, if we don't do that, they're going to start calling my customers competitors. Okay. So that's how this all works. It's as simple as that. So we got to be looking at, how do we do better? Okay. How do you do better? If you want to go back, I listed off a few things. If you've been acting like that as a broker, I would change that shit today. All right. If you have consistent lanes and you don't know how to pre-book carriers, it's as simple as this. Say you're moving that lane, Atlanta to Des Moines. All right. We broke that down. You're moving that for a reefer. Say you got it tendered over to you. You got it 3 times a week. Okay. Choose the day of the week that it's moving on. You got a carrier that picks up on time, delivers on time, communicates great. Maybe they sent you a couple of photos in there to show that the reefer was running at the same temperature. They sent you the seal number. They were just awesome. As soon as they deliver that load, ask them if they want the other one. Hey, I got this exact same load tomorrow. Do you got it? Do you want another truck out there? You don't? When are you going to be back in Atlanta? You're going to be back next week? Perfect. You're my first phone call when I get this tendered. I move this 3 times a week. It is truly as simple as that, you guys. And then you don't actually have to go out to a load board and post it up. You got that great carrier who did a great job for you. They might be a little bit more expensive than everybody else, but here's what's expensive, you guys. Building a book of business. All right. That's very expensive. Acquiring customers is very expensive. Recovering lost revenue from a lost customer because you knowingly booked a carrier on a load you shouldn't have could be a death sentence to your organization. Could put you under. All right. So is it really that much? It's not to me. I'll pay the additional money 100 times out of 100 to make sure the right truck is showing up to my customer's facility. The right truck is delivering to my customer's customer. So then we can keep all of that going. And then my customer has a line item that shows Chris Jolly and $ next to it, because so much gets repeated every time Chris Jolly and his team takes care of that freight. But that is going to be it for today, ladies and gentlemen. As always, if you got value in what you heard and you're not subscribed, subscribe to the show, you guys. Tomorrow, we're going to be doing a flatbed lane analysis. That's your boy's sweet spot. I'm going to teach you guys how to do all of that. And then we're going to break down some headlines out there. And we're going to go a little bit further into this compliance hammer that is being dropped right now. I appreciate you guys. I love you guys. And we'll be talking to you soon.
Came back with a bang. Window down, yelling out money, anything. Ayy, ooh, got the foot on the gas. Pedal to the metal when I'm getting to the